Greetings, everyone. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with another episode of Random Encounters, the show where I use random encounter tables, like the kind you find in tabletop role-playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, and I use them to generate randomized. I mean, I create a table, so it's not completely random. Randomized prompts of whos and whats. Put them together, and then I draw a cartoon of that very thing while you're watching, with your input to try and make it even better. Hello, Chris Andrew. Thank you for showing up. Glad to see you. So that's the thing I do every week, and I'm here to do it again because I'm having so much fun, and I'm hoping that you will draw along with me. Now, you don't have to draw the same things I'm doing, though you certainly are welcome to. But if you just grab a piece of paper, your favorite notebook, or just some printing paper, or a sketch pad, or whatever, and a ballpoint pen, a Sharpie, a crayon, a marker, whatever, just draw. Draw for the fun of it. That's what this is all about. It's all about the fact that drawing is fun. Also, hopefully you get a good laugh out of it. So, let me grab my iPad here. I do all of this on my iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and the app Procreate. I use these things because these are the tools I use in my professional drawing, and I like them. This is not at all sponsored in any way by them or anyone else, but I say to the world, open for business. You want to come sponsor some stuff? Drop me a line. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I am opening my iPad here so that it's ready for me to come over here and hit this button. And we'll come over. These are our random encounter tables for the night. Some interesting stuff up on there, I think. I try to keep it interesting. Now we'll come over to the die rolling app. Come on. There we go. A die rolling app where we are going to roll a dice to select our first pairing of who and what. So, as usual, I will roll the dice 3 times to get it warmed up once, twice, a third time. 3. 3 is our first who. And once or twice, a third time. 6. 6 is our first what. So let's come back to the tables and see what 3 and 6 gets as a Cyclops morning coffee. Cyclops morning coffee. Okay, that is our subject, or our prompt, as it were, for the first drawing. I'm going to make sure I'm on all the settings I want to be. I'm on my sketch layer. I'm using my studio brush. Pardon me. And tinting it blue. I like to do my sketching in blue. What is a difficult transition from traditional pencil and paper to digital art? Make it look seamless, but it's obviously incredibly hard. So let me start drawing, and I will talk about that as I go. Once I'm going, I can ramble, but if I'm trying to come up with an idea while I'm trying to answer that question, I will only do one at a time, and then I'll just stand here drawing nothing. So let's start with Cyclops. Now, first thing in my head is that I could go for, rather than the D&D monster Cyclops, for the comic book X-Men Cyclops. But I don't think I will. That's possible. It doesn't come up here. Big comic book nerd here. Not surprising, I'm sure, to anyone, but it doesn't come up a lot here on the show. But so we got a Cyclops. Oh, I want to be on a larger pen size. Alright, so need a large thing. He's going to have one eye. I don't really know what he's going to be looking at there. Now, I could have him lay in a very relaxed pose like this with a mug of coffee. Maybe half asleep. And maybe something here that he's eating. That's a possibility. Let me just grab that and shrink it up, put it on the corner. I could also make the coffee extra hot so Cyclops' eye. And so Cyclops' eye looks like it's painfully hot. Could do. Could do. Let's see. Let's explore a couple of that. I could also have him hunched over like it's early in the morning and he's just woken up. Could have him trying to work a Keurig and missing because no depth perception. That's kind of funny, I think. Some kind of coffee machine that he's not quite getting. Kind of liking this idea, just to start with. Actually, I'm liking that idea. Not that I don't like what you've written, Chris, but I have gotten into my own head, and I like this one. Something about, I think, the depth perception gag that's really making me like it. So let's just grab this, zoom it up a little so it fits fully on the page, and we'll work from here. So let's see. I'm going to come back here and redo everything that's going on there. So let's get rid of that. There's going to be some kind of I have a coffee mug that he's holding out. Some kind of coffee. Spigot down here. I know that this is not how coffee works. I personally am not a coffee drinker, so there's an amount of this where I just have to go from experience of having grown up around coffee drinkers. I think I can move him a little. I'm going to grab the Cyclops part of this. I'm going to move him a little over to the right. Oop, didn't want to make him larger, but we could. Just so that we have a little more room here to work with. Bad depth perception. In the end, I might cut that down smaller after I finish drawing it if I think of something. Right now, I haven't got a good idea for what a caption or anything I could put in there. But if something comes, I can. Hello, Becky. Thank you for dropping in. All right, so with this basic idea, I'm going to look back up and see coffee is life's blood for some people. Yes, for some people. I'm not one of those people. However, it's not that I'm not into caffeine, but I get almost all my caffeine through diet soda. I don't mind drinking it late at night, and I don't mind drinking it first thing in the morning. Also, I'm kind of weird in that I don't mind if it's kind of room temperature or even warm. Kind of like, in some instances, I like a heated up cola is, in a coffee kind of way, is nice. People have always found it very strange that I don't mind tepid soda. I not only don't mind, I kind of like it. Um, let's see. The question you asked was it a difficult transition from pencil and paper to digital? Okay, so while I'm drawing this, I can talk about that. It so it depends on what point you're talking about. For a long time I couldn't do it at all. In the when before touchscreen drawing was something that was accessible. There was still, there were a lot of tablets, which were the kinds that you didn't have a touch screen to draw on. But they hooked up to the computer, and you would draw on the tablet while you were looking at your screen. So my hand is down here drawing, and my eyes are up here looking, and I could not get the hang of that. Couldn't get the hang of it at all. I tried. I owned a one or two. I don't remember whether I ever got the second one. Tablets that I tried to use, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I know that if I'd put in the time, I could have. I'm not a dummy. I realize that it's a skill that I hadn't picked up, and the only way to pick up a skill like that is to practice. But all the drawing I was doing was 4 projects, and I didn't have time just to learn to do it, to take the time it would take to learn to do it on my own. Right? I was doing physical drawing and then scanning and importing that. I was doing digital coloring on the drawings that I would draw physically. And then when I got to try out Cintiq, which is a Wacom product, their high-end touch screen. It was the Cadillac of it for a time. In fact, for a while, it was just about the only way you could do it. And I got to try it out, and it was as awesome as I thought it was. I was able to very quickly, I felt, I'm getting this, and I knew that I could get it if I could have one of those to practice with. They're very, very expensive. And when the iPad it was before the Pro, but it was the iPad 3, I think. I don't think it was iPad 2, but iPad 3. Either iPad 2 or 3 came along. When they released the Apple Pencil, whichever generation that was, when the Apple Pencil came along, and they started talking about how you could use the Apple Pencil, and it had such a good response rate, and that this now seemed to be something that you probably could do professional work with. No one was really sure at that point. There's a high degree of skepticism in the art community. But I watched a bunch of videos of artists using it and saying, "Oh no, this is it. I can totally do it." So I got one. I was in the Apple ecosystem anyway. I already had an iPad. It was about time for me to upgrade. So I did. I'm going to switch over and start working on the lines now. And it was amazing in that I'd heard about Procreate. I'd done a good amount of research before I did this. And I found out what specs I wanted to make sure I had on the iPad, and I looked at the several drawing apps that are available, and I read all about Procreate and how good it was. And I figured, all right, this is something that I could learn to use. So I picked it up, and I noodled around with it. Just kind of, I did like 3 or 4 sketches. And it turned out that weekend I had a project that I needed to do. Well, I had an assignment that needed to get done in like the next 10 days. I had pegged out that weekend to do it. And I thought, you know what? I'll try it. I'll try it on this new iPad just to see what it's like. And it probably, what I'll really do is figure out how much work I'm going to have to do. There's no way this will actually work out on my first time around. And then, I've still got 10 days. I will do the project physically the way I normally do afterwards. But this weekend, I'm going to commit to playing around on the iPad with it. And I picked up the Procreate, and it works so much. Now, I have the advantage of having done a bunch of digital work for the coloring. Like I say, after I would do the basic drawing physically, and then I would do the coloring and the cleanup and adjustments with Photoshop using a mouse like normal. So that gave me input into how the system worked. I understood how the digital drawing software was going to work and how layers worked and all that other stuff. And it turned out that the drawing on the iPad with the Apple Pencil was so natural that it worked so well that I was able to, that very first weekend, I finished by the end of the weekend. I was ready to turn the assignment over to my project lead. I'd done the thing, and it was as good or better than it would have come out physically, because one of the things that digital drawing always has had appeal for me is I don't always get the line I want right, and all artists have this problem. No one I know draws the line they want right every time, but I often would find myself getting on into the middle of a project and saying, I just wish I could undo that line or fix it a little. And with digital, I could. I don't like switching. I don't like switching pencils or brushes or pens while I'm working. I like to just use one, and that I don't know if that's laziness or just I don't know how. There are lots of reasons you could give for that, but I don't. All of my physical work I mostly done with one drawing implement at a time. But here digitally, I'm using the same implement, and I can adjust the width of it. Just coming over here, if you look on the left side, I can make the brush stroke. This is what I'm drawing. This is the line I'm drawing right now. If I just switch this up, that will produce a much thicker line, or if I switch it down, it'll produce a much thinner line. And so I could, it's like switching pens without having to switch pens. So I found very quickly that I was drawing exactly what I wanted, that it was looking as good or better than I would have done physically. And I never looked back. Within 3 or 4 months, well, let's call it 6 months, I did not. I stopped even considering doing my work on physical media. I still like to do sketching. I like to do playful sketching. And basic ideation, as they call it. I really resisted that word for a long time, but I find myself using it more and more. Basic creative thinking out loud and doodling and coming up with ideas. And I like to do that in a physical media. I think maybe for the same reason that I like drawing is it uh, with the digital medium, it's too easy to stop and correct the line I didn't mean to do. Or if something's not working out, to erase it or to keep going backwards. And with physical media, you once you put a line down, you got to keep going, and you either play with it or you move along and you start something new. And I find that when I'm thinking up ideas, that is more valuable to me. My notebooks are filled with, you know, half uh, half finished characters or faces or ideas or shapes. Um, and some of those work out, and some of them don't. And different drawings will sit next to each other or overlap with each other, or various things. And I think that there's a lot there's a lot of good brainstorming and ideas that come out of that kind of thing. Uh, and again, like I say, if if I don't like what I've drawn, I have to either just let it be and work with it, or move along and try again. And while I could make that happen, drawing digitally, I don't. I just don't. When I do sketching, I said do. When I do sketching with my digital media here, I find myself, even when I don't mean to, getting into finishing a drawing rather than just throwing a bunch of different ideas down. Um, I don't wind up with my notebooks, pages of just random drawings all over the place. Even when I sit down to scribble with my iPad, I don't do that. I find it hard to make myself do that. So I still find physical drawing the best thing for me to do when I'm trying to either specifically trying to come up with ideas, or just trying to let my brain wander and see what it comes up with. But once I have the thing I'm working on, I find that the digital so much better for me. So I don't know if that really. Let me look back. What was so? Was it so? It was not. So that's the thing, is using these tools. There really wasn't much of a learning curve, and that's what made it so easy. Was I was able to pick it up and just draw the way I always had. Um, so there wasn't. But I say that the problem is that before that, the learning curve was so steep that I wasn't getting over it with the original kind of non touchpad tablets. So yeah, kind of a story, a weird kind of story of extremes. One is the bar was so high I couldn't get over it. The other one's it was so natural that there wasn't even a bar. Let's see. Maybe I'll give him pajama pants. No, this is looking like a workstation rather than a home station. See, another caption idea: time to break some bones and guts. Yeah, I was. When I read that, and you say play on the Dunkin' Donuts, time to make the donuts. When I first read that, the first thing I was, yeah, time to make the donuts, time to smash the invaders. It's funny. Chris says, credit to me for trying something new. Well, so here's the thing: is part of it, and one of the reasons why I was doing all of my coloring and tweaking digitally is that digital definitely allowed me to do the things I'd always wanted to do. So this really is the medium I'd been looking for. The way my finished comics are looking these days are the way I wanted them to look back in the late 80s, early 90s when I was starting to draw. I wanted to find a way to get the look that I have now. Kind of, it's flat, kind of flat cell animation style characters with often a slightly more textured background. And it's so easy to do. I mean, there was some learning and some figuring out how to make it work. And it's taken me a while. In fact, this past year, I've made several leaps and bounds of figuring out something that I've been trying to figure out for a while. But yeah, no, I guess, I mean, I suppose, thank you for saying that. But it's not so much that I was trying something new. It's that I always was trying to find ways. I knew that digital could unlock some of it, and it infuriated me that I couldn't figure out the other digital, the non-touchscreen tablets. Because I wanted to. I wanted to work like that, and I suppose I should have been willing to work harder at it. I mean, that's my take on it. Is I should have put in the time I needed to learn to do that, but I was too busy getting stuff done the old way. It was 70% of what I wanted, and I was getting paid to do it, and it was coming out okay. But I knew it wasn't what I really wanted, and I had a very strong suspicion that digital would allow me to do what I wanted to do. I just couldn't figure it out. So I'm just glad that Apple and Procreate came along and let me stop trying to find a way to fake it and actually do what I wanted to do. All right, there we go. We got our outline there. Let's go in. Oh, I just put those on the colors layer, didn't I? Foo. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to duplicate that colors layer. Crash these two together. Change that name back to lines. Oh, this doesn't really matter. I don't know why I'm doing that. And then clear that so now the colors layer has nothing on it. But the lines layer does. Okay. Now we'll go and we'll switch to our gloaming brush so I can do some coloring. I don't think we're going to have a caption on this. I think we will just take care of it. We'll live with the... I was going to give him greenish skin. I don't know. Same color skin I'd been thinking, like I usually do for like the brain not working. Beholders and other monsters and zombies and stuff like that. I'll go with this kind of greenish gray, more like a gray. We'll see, again, I'm doing the shape within the shape. I'm finding these shapes within it, and by sticking to them, increasing the feeling that of shape and texture, three-dimensionality, without having to really work at it hard. I guess there's another thing my career has been filled with, is me finding ways to fake the things that I want to do, so I don't have to learn the new thing, or I don't have to work as hard. It's hard to get that kind of good textural sense. Finding a way to fake it so I can do it quickly. Alright. I'm going to take a darker version of that for the upper eyelid. I think I'll even use that same color for the hair. That's a good base color for the hair. And that's about a coffee color. Oh, I just undid the hair. I often talk about this. One of the challenges I have is that I don't like to draw with the drawing glove, and the touchscreen responds such that it will read. It will often read the way I lay my hand down as the undo command, and so things will get undone that I don't want undone. Like that hair. I finished the hair and then immediately started to do something else, but it thought I said undo. Okay. So we'll take kind of a pale orangey color for this shirt. Here, again, you can see I'm finding the shapes within the shapes. And, you know, everyone likes to, even Cyclopses like to wear blue jeans. So there, that's the answer to that question, Chris. I don't know if that. I mean, if you have a follow-up question on that, that's great. I don't know if that answers everything you were looking for, or if I took it a different way, but that's my first take at it anyway. Yeah. So as it is, I do most of my drawing on this. When I was working, last time I was working in house anywhere, which was Wizards of the Coast, and I had meetings. My notebook is where I did a lot of sketching. The notebook I took to meetings and such was the same notebook that I used for my personal stuff, and so there's a lot of ideation that went on. Again, kind of frightens me how much I've taken to using that word. A lot of just rough ideas, and when someone would say something, I'd put a cartoon about it, or just various things. And that, because I had to go to meetings and have the notebook out, I spent a lot more time just kind of in front of it with no reason and no expectations, and a lot of good ideas came out of that. A lot of when did I add that? Oh goodness! See down here, this stripe. There's another one. I inadvertently touched the pad. There's a problem with digital media that you don't find. you don't find with physical media is when you inadvertently make a mark. It can happen so easily. And then if you don't catch it right away, if you make it on the same layer with anything else, it can be really difficult to remove. It can be impossible to remove. And it's similar when you make in physical media. You do that all the time. You put a line down, or you spill something, or you slip. You just got to live with it, or white it out later, or start over again. Digital media, you can undo it, but if you don't catch it immediately, then then you can't undo it for without undoing a bunch of other stuff that you then have to do again. So it becomes like physical media in that way, but it's more annoying because you get used to be able to controlling things so precisely. There we go. I'm liking how this is looking. So we will come back here, switch brushes, and stick a little stand at the bottom. Ooh. Yeah, on the lines layer. And we've got our Cyclops with morning coffee. Guess I don't really need. I was going to make a gag about the depth perception thing, but I think that it's kind of there anyway. You interpret it, and just putting it in by words would not add to the joke. All right, so let's see what's going on here. So I hope I answered that question and didn't just ramble off on my agenda. Let's see. Casey Butt says, "Hey Stan, just want to stop by and say hi. I've been catching up on the various podcasts, and especially looking forward to getting the 2000s. Oh yes, yeah. So Chris is talking about my Wednesday night podcast, which is called 50 Years in the Dungeon. I'm going to be talking about that later. But I do interviews and do drawings of interviews with people who worked on D&D and drawings of I do cartoon homages to classic D&D art. And we're now getting into the early 2000s. This is with D20 Modern. Can't wait to share Everyday Heroes and their cinematic adventures with my daughter. Oh, yes. Well, Everyday Heroes is the spiritual successor to D20 Modern, which I did a lot of work on D20 Modern back in the aughts. So yes, I don't want to. There will be no D20 Modern drawings in what I'm doing here, Chris. Sorry to say, I'm sticking to D&D for this project. But next year, when I finish up the 50 of this project and I start moving on to other things, D&D Modern, D20 Modern is on the table for possibilities. And certainly I'm talk about it. I'm happy to talk about anything, and particularly if we have guests on. I guess Charles Ryan, who I had on recently, would have been a good person to talk about D20 Modern more with. But maybe I can put together a D20 Modern panel next year sometime. Chris says Cyclopses do wear blue jeans. They've always had an eye for fashion. I like it. As much as I seem to be mocking you, I like it. Good evening, Michael Pastor. Thank you for joining us again. You've been photo editing. Wow, that sounds fun for you. Okay, so let me come along here. I'll take another sip of my drink, my non-coffee caffeinated beverage, and I will come here and turn off round 1, turn on round 2, go back to the blue, and turn on our encounter tables, because it's time to go and select our Or blah, blah, blah. Try it again. It's time to go get our second prompt and do our second drawing. So let's come back to the dice and see what the dice will pick for us this time around. What's twice a third time? Come on. Oh, six. It's for sure wanting a six. So there we go. This adventurers. We know that six is always adventurers on the Who. Once, twice, third time. Four. Six and four. Instead of 3 and 6, 6 and 4. 4 is back to school. Adventurers, back to school. Adventurer, back to school. Okay. All right. Let's turn off that and come back here. I do not immediately have an idea coming to me on what Adventurer Back to School might be like. In fact, that's not true. I've got a couple of ideas, and they're complicated drawings with a lot of characters and a lot of classroom setting detail, which I don't want to do here. The idea of this show is to do quick stuff. So, let's see. Typical D&D party as kids with backpacks. Possibly. Good idea. In the brain, noodling away. What's back? I put that on there. I'm not even sure. I should think more before I put things on the list. Like, I'm not even sure what back to school is such a broad concept. It doesn't immediately have a visual element that it suggests. I think here we go. Okay, I got it. I think we're going to, in part, do what you suggested, Chris, in that we will have a small kid as our a kid-sized version of an adventure. I'll move that down. Where do I want to move them? I think here we're going to have a teacher's desk. I'm already, but look at how much detail I'm putting into this. Okay. I have an idea. and have an idea what he's going to be saying at the end. Guy in plate trying to open his locker. That'd be a good one. Like a little rogue just picking the locker. You forgot your locker. Well, you called a little rogue, and he comes and he can pick the lock. This is starting to sound like the beginning of a series of cartoons or a new web comic or short short graphic novel, short. And we could come up with a whole series of gags like that to include on it. You know what? It's sounding like a hook for a Disney Channel show about young adventurers in school. I'll tell you what, I've been, over the last few years, more than a few, for quite a while, I've carried around the germs of an idea based on a manga series that I saw when I was in Japan. I have a book collecting them. It would probably help if I finished one sentence before I went on to the second. So there was a series, a very, very cartoony series, called Monster Maker. Monster Maker. It was based off a cartridge game, a series of cartridge games that had a strong audience in Japan in the 90s. Never made it big over here. You know what? No, what? I'm going to finish drawing, and I'll do this afterwards. And it was a very cartoony style, but it was a fantasy comic based off this game. And I loved, and it was the whole of the game had this, all the ads, all the art that was done for the game had this same style. It was this one artist that did them. I probably at the time knew, but I've since forgotten the name of the artist, which is terrible for me. Makes me feel bad. But it was one of the things I looked at, and I remember for the the thing that I wish was true over here. People over here, the audience over here, is very rarely willing to accept a cartoony style for for just a regular old fantasy series. If it's going to have a cartoony style, it needs to either be for kids or funny. And this was neither. This was just it was a little funny. I mean, there were bits of it they went for the gags on, but it was just a fantasy story series with cartoony drawing style. And So there was that. But on top of that, they also did a uh, a side comic or a related comic that had young high school or junior high school versions of these same characters, and it was them going to school. And I don't. I think it was just called Monster Maker High School or Monster Maker School in Japanese, of course. Um, and I loved it. I mean, I thought that was great, and I kept thinking how that would make a terrific um, kind of thing for me to do. But I've done noodlings on it. I've done some sketches. Talking back to my sketchbooks again, you can find periods in my sketchbooks where I was toying around with that idea for sure. But I never really solved that. Never came up with something that I thought was uh, worthwhile taking beyond that initial phase to drawing it out or writing a story. And actually, the story itself, what the story would be about them, is one of the things that I I think I needed to figure out in order to make it work for me. All right, here we go. It's going to say, what I slew this summer. Hmm. Nope, that's not working the way I want it to. Now we can come in here. Tell you what I thought I was going to put on the blackboard, and maybe I still will. Is to have it say, have the blackboard written today oral reports. But I would want to do that in the same space where his caption is right now. And so I won't. My beholder ate my homework. That's funny. All right, so we'll go with this. I like how that's looking. Let's turn off the sketch layer and see what we've got. What needs to be touched up just a little bit before we go on to putting in color. I think I actually want to. I was thinking about doing that with the color, but I think I will take the time to fill in his mouth there. Okay. All right. I like it. So, yeah. Maybe I'll get that sorted out. I had a lot of half-finished ideas for that adventurer school concept. And like I say, none of them panned out the way well enough that I carried them forward. I kept getting so far into it and then stopping and putting it aside because it wasn't working, and it wasn't a project that had a deadline or even a place to go. If I finished it, I'd find a place to put it, but and you know what? It also came back when I've been thinking about doing some uh, rules light RPG gaming. Rules light RPGs are my jam, and I've got a few that half finished ideas on my hard drive in my notebooks of possibilities, and the idea of doing them, pairing them with this kind of story, so that I could, I could do a comic to go with it and publish it together. But as I say, none of it's come together. It's all sitting there in half completed format or notes that didn't get followed up on. After I finish this drawing, I'm going to go over to my bookshelf over here and grab one of the. Like I say, I've got the manga that I used to look at. That this idea is loosely based on. Go. It's looking good. We also want to have kind of a purple color for the robes of the teacher. Even though we can't see it, that's what I'm thinking. The teacher is some kind of wizard character. Like so. We can I want to make sure I don't go too dark with these colors so they don't stand out too much. But I do want to do the desk. And the blackboard back here. We need a dark. This is a tough one. It's got to be a green, and a dark-ish green, but not so dark that it's going to overwhelm the picture. Here we go. And then just a little bit of other brown there. Guess I actually want to go to my inking brush here so I can put some tiles on the floor. And we've got ourselves Adventurer Back to School. What I Slew This Summer by Freddie Fighter. Alright. I will come back here to my lines layer and put a little stand in the corner. And we have Adventurers Back to School. The skull on the staff is looking great. Thank you very much. I see Digimon cartoons under Monster Maker School. Yeah, hold on a second. Just a second. I'll be right back. I'm pretty sure it's right here. I can grab it off the shelf. Okay. Yes. Oh, you can see this. Here we go. So, you're waiting for me? You here with me? Great. All right. So we're going to take this off screen for a second. I'm back again. Come back to just me. And so, Monster Maker Saga was the name of the game. And that is what the comics were like, what they looked like. Let me see if I can find a good spread to show. This is this is the last book of the series, so there's a lot of details, right? But here we go. Yeah, so there's some characters, right? This is not a goofy story; it's just done in a cartoony style. I love this style. I love this cartoonist style. Kugatsuhime, I believe, is the author's pen name. Hime being Princess Kugatsuhime. Princess Kugatsu. Now, yeah, that's for sure the name. So Monster Maker, I can't read the kanji. But this is the book, the high school book. This is the book of characters from that world going to school. And let me see. There was only, here we go, the first page on the blackboard, putting stuff on the blackboard. A couple of the characters are wearing, they come to the school. Definitely the same characters, almost in a chibi style, except it's already cartoony. So, yes. It was interesting because I remember at some point late in this, they actually take a field trip to the real world. And I can't find it off the top of my head, but yes, more school stuff. But it's about, so see, we've for sure got an elf here, but we got a high school thing going on there. It was a lot of fun. Monster Maker Saga. It's Monster Maker kanji. Show the covers again. Here we go. Boo-doo-boo-boo. It says Volume 1. As far as I know, there was never a Volume 2. It didn't seem. Oh, so like the superhero fantasy heroes having to deal with mundane issues of school. Me too. And that makes there have been a bunch of cool things like that done since then. This all having been done in the 90s. Right? Recently, on everything from Disney to Netflix and various other things, there have been, sci-fi and space and superhero school stories that have been very good. Power Pack. I love Power Pack. Chris says there's a Marvel comic in the 80s called Power Pack. Yes, written by Louise Simonson. It was a terrific comic. All right, so let's now go. Let's do one more drawing. One more drawing, and we can keep talking about all this stuff. But get back to the reason that I turned the camera on in the first place is to do this show where I do improv cartooning. So I better do some improv cartooning, huh? Okay, turn back on, and it's time to roll up another prompt. So here we go. We're gonna once, twice, a third time, and two. Two is our who, and once and twice and third time. Four, we just did four, didn't we? Four was back to school. I can roll it again, or you guys can start giving me ideas right now. You start putting it up there. I'm going to roll another one, but it's not necessarily going to win. You guys have the chance to compete. Beauty Queen. So Hook Horror was 2. Was our other Hook Horror Beauty Queen. Wow. That's interesting. I thought I was the only person that had ever read. No, Power Pack. Power Pack was hugely popular in the 80s, in the late 80s, early 90s. Did it get to the early 90s? I think it was just mid to late 80s. Really good. It didn't survive well. It didn't carry forward. But I think that anyone that was reading comics in that era was certainly aware of, and there were many, many fans of Power Pack. What is a Hook Horror? Hook Horror is a D&D monster. It's a D&D aberration. Let's pull it up. Let's go over here, and I will turn on. I didn't turn on round 3. Now I got it turned on. And I tell you, Hook Horror. I had them on about 6 months ago. I had them on a list. It's a weird monster it's got a big kind of hulking body and a head that's very vulture-like. And it's called a Hook Horror because it's got these long arms that just end in hooks. And that is your basic. The head, it really is very vulture-like. And then it's got a big, brutish body. And I think it even has vulture-y feet. Very avian. Except it's got these big, massive hooks at the end of its arms. And it spikes you at it. Look it up. do a web search on Hook Horror, D&D Hook Horror, and you'll see the weird creature, which I think I've gotten mostly correct here. Michael says that Power Pack was very maturely. It was a serious book. It wasn't a kid's book, right? It wasn't a in as much as all comics to that in the 80s were somewhat kids' books. It was not a children's comic. It was a comic about children. It was a mainline Marvel continuity comic about children. And there were cute and childish things about it. The aliens they met looked kind of like My Little Pony ponies. Kind of bipedal My Little Ponies. But there were also these weird lizard aliens. And the kids lived in the real world. They lived in this real world with the real world. The mainline Marvel world with Spider-Man. And they met Wolverine and the X-Men. And it was serious in that it fit into general Marvel Comics continuity. But it was about the kids. It was a brilliant comic. I dare say. Brilliant. Alright, so I'm going to clear that layer out. We got a Hook Horror. Maybe Hook Horror putting on some makeup before the beauty pageant? Maybe? The Snarks. Power Pack, yes. Alright, so let's see. think we're going to put a big wig on our hook horror. I think our hook horror, the big thing, is going to be trying to put on the fake eyelashes. Got earrings on. There we go. Look at that. Lipstick, of course. I think that your idea of makeup is good. And then definitely saying something like it's something about the eyelashes. Alright, that's a good loose idea. Let's go and put the lines in. I'm going to. I've been getting. On a lot of my drawings here, I've been forgetting that I want these to be loose, doodly kind of drawings to some amount. Nice long eyelashes. I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase what the hook horror might be saying. It's putting on the the eyelashes that kills me. That's not the way it should read, but something like that. All right, and then kind of big Marge Simpson hair. What I want is for this hook to come behind the nose. Now, I talk about not wanting to, not having inadvertent. Uh, it's the word I'm looking for. Tangents, where lines meet up. There are times when you specifically want to make sure that one goes behind the other because that also helps to create that proper sense of depth and let you know what's going on in the drawing. I don't know how the other girls managed to put fake eyelashes on. It's something like that. That's how this. Again, I often talk about how this what we do on this show is, or what I do during this show is the creation of the idea, and it's very rare that you get the best final version of any of these gags. It's the kind of thing that in my notebook I'd put in there, and then I'd let it sit for a week or two before I actually try to do anything with it, and I could come back and do some editing on it. And this is one of those things where I'd want to find the right phrasing. Just realized that the hook horror like this seems like he's probably related to Gonzo the Great with the big beaky nose. It's like Gonzo's buff cousin. Can I go for world peace when I can't even get my eyelashes straight? That's funny. That's funny. In fact, I think that's what I'll write down here, Becky. I think your line there better than what I'm working with here. My first ideas. Let's go. The thing I would tweak on this, and I don't think I'm going to right now because it requires a noodling on it. So it's not how can I go for world peace? It's there's some other phrasing for that because you're not going for world peace. They're they're expressing that as the thing they want to achieve, and that's not happening tonight. So it's not the perfect iteration of this joke, but none of them are. It's the best one we've got, I think, by far. How can I go? You know what? No, I hate that W. My W's require a lot more concentration. I think I talked about that last week too. Yeah, it's because when I write them quickly, I want to do a wicka wicka wicka, and too often they come up smushed, and I need to widen them out. I need to take a little extra care. All right, instead of straight, I'm going to say I can't get my eyelashes on. But now I'm going to grab this and move it a little so that we have a little extra room to finish out. And to put the balloon around it. Nope, that's not a good tail. There we go. How can I go for world peace? You know what? I know. No, I'm not going to change it. But I'm thinking, how it's like, how can I go for miscongeniality or something like that? Is hitting just in this particular phrasing. Maybe it's the idea would be to get away from this phrasing instead of how can I go for. Maybe it's just forget about world peace. My goal is to get my eyelashes on straight. I almost want to rewrite it now. But like I say, got to stop worrying about that. When I'm when I'm working with people who are trying to, or who are beginner artists or want to learn how to draw, and I sometimes do that kind of thing. The toughest thing to do for a lot of them is to just let the drawings be what they are the first time through and let them be as imperfect as they're going to be. Don't worry about going back and fixing them. Do that later. Don't do that on every piece. Just finish what you're working on and practice. Do the bad drawings so that you've got them, you can get them out of your system. Do the bad drawings so they can sit there and you can look at them and say, oh, no, 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 what I really wanted to do was, and do the good drawing later. And that's how I feel about this. I think this is a really funny line. This is the egg. This is a really funny line that will hatch into an extraordinarily funny line. We find exactly the way to say it. First eyelashes, then world peace. Yeah, see, there's a lot of ways to approach this. Okay. So, I'm going to go to the colors layer. And we will start with a go to the gloaming brush before I do anything else. Start with a wig. I think I want kind of a magenta wig. And then we're going to do a bluish gray is going to be our base color for the hook horror. I see where that first one disappeared. Look at that. And let's see, want some very bright red for the lipstick. Some sultry purple for the eyelashes, or the eye shadow. Gold earrings. Come back with that red there for a jewel in each. And maybe a green dress. Maybe not the most best fashion color for most people, but this is our hook horror. Do the trim in a darker green. There we go. I quite like that. So we'll just come and grab a little darker color. No, darker than that. Do some shadows, some quick shading here. Looking pretty good. And just a little more, and we'll be there. A little darker than that. No, too dark. The first color is what we want. Because it was looking too close to what I used for the trim. Can't have the shadow. Again, what you want to do is avoid confusion. You can't have the shadow be the same color as the trim, because that will create confusion. Okay, there we go. And let's see, one of the things I want to clear that up. A little erase on the eye, and pick. Ooh, what did I do? So a little shadow under the eyes to show that it's pulled open to create that feeling that it's not just flat. All right. How can I go for world peace when I can't even get my eyelashes on? Well done. Well said, Becky. Come back to the inking, and we'll stick a little stand in the corner. We've got a Hook Horror Beauty Queen. Sash. Miss something. Yeah, if we had a larger, full body view and there was room, then a miss something is that's a funny sash. That's a good gag on its own. Let's see. It reminds me of the opening scene of a Torch Song trilogy with Harvey Fierstein. I've never seen the Torch Song trilogy. I'm sorry to say, though. I know what it is, and I know who Harvey Fierstein is, and I can see why that would be the case. First eyelashes, then world peace. Yes. So. Good job, folks. Good job, you. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. So let me take a little sip, and then we'll do a little outro, and we'll wrap it up. And we can head off to the tail ends of our weeks. There we go. We've had 3 fun improv cartoons here. 3 random prompts that we generated with help from the audience. Thank you very much, audience. We have here a Hook Horror Beauty Queen. We had Adventurer Back to School. And we had a Cyclops and Morning Coffee. And that's what we did this week on Random Encounters. We talked about a Japanese manga that I liked when I was in Japan called Monster Maker Saga. We talked about that. I told you I was going to talk about my my other podcast, my Wednesday night podcast called 50 Years in the Dungeon, which, if you are not watching it, you may want to check out our free newsletter to find out more about it. 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com. But it's, as I was explaining earlier, it's a show where I'm celebrating the 50th anniversary of D&D by interviewing folks who've worked on the game, and while I do it, I create cartoon homages to classic D&D pieces of D&D art, mostly product covers. Now, here's the thing: hopefully next week, hopefully before the end of September or early in October, I'll be launching a crowdfunding. Well, my partners at Rogue Genius Games will be launching a Kickstarter to fund a 2025 calendar using art that I created on that show, on the 50 Years in the Dungeon. Here is a prototype that I had done up of the wall calendar. Isn't that nice? 50 Years in the Dungeon. You will be able to buy this. It will have, for each month, one of the cartoon homages I drew on the show, and lo and behold, a calendar. You know how calendars work. So yes, if you wanted to own some Stan art and you haven't yet, this is one way you'll be able to do it. Kickstarter's coming. There will be this wall calendar version. There will also be a desk calendar version, which are a bunch of two-sided postcard, 5x7 postcards, with the art and the months on it, the calendars on it. So you can put them on your desk or hang them on your wall, whatever you want. You can hang the postcards on the wall too. So there you go. I wanted to let you guys know that because you come here, presumably because in some way or form you enjoy my cartooning, and this in some way or form is my cartooning. So there you go. That's coming up soon. I will announce. I will post about it. If you're not following me on social media, maybe that's something you want to do too. Instagram's a good place to do that. Instagram.com/Stanex, where I post all of these drawings that I do each week on the show, and all the other stuff I do that's publicly available. And I make announcements about things like this Kickstarter that's coming up. So keep an eye on that. If not, come back next week and I'll talk about it again, I'm sure. So there we go. That is our show for the evening. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you Chris and Becky and Michael for showing up and chatting in the comments. Thank you everyone else who has been watching live. Thank you if you're watching on a replay. I appreciate that. Please give it a like. Give this video a like, whatever platform you're watching on, thumb or a stars up or a heart or whatever one. Give it that. I would really appreciate that. And if you're watching some other time, leave me a comment. Tell me what you're thinking about. Tell me how you're enjoying or not. Tell me how you think I could do it better. I'm open to suggestions. That's how you get things in life. You learn how to improve. So, thank you very much. Please take care of yourselves. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.